Hello and welcome to the Talk BGKY podcast, the official podcast for the City of Bowling Green. I'm your host today, Raina Johnson, the Public Information and Broadcast Specialist for the City of Bowling Green, and I have the privilege of sitting with Nick and Eric from the Police and Fire Departments to talk about the peer support group. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Eric Woodward with the Bowling Green Police Department.
Nick Atkins. I'm a firefighter with the Bowling Green Fire Department.
So we have the peer support team. Tell me a little bit about your backgrounds and kind of what led you to being on this team and how that team got started.
So I've been on almost 25 years. As time has went on, things have changed, reactions have changed based on what you see and deal with. So it kind of has always been a topic, but it really didn't start developing until the last several years when we started talking about mental health with first responders. So both departments got new chiefs and a new HR, and it was kind of a goal of theirs to implement something. And as they were looking at it, that's when the tornado hit. And based on everybody's interactions and scenes and extreme amount of work during that time, that's when the necessity really got driven home. And then at that point, we started reaching out to get the assistance we needed, and we really liked what we saw and got involved with and kind of took it from there and started running with it.
How was it for you? What's your background with the fire department?
Going back a little bit, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, so I enjoy understanding how people operate and work, how all of our outside influences really dictate who we are and how we respond to those influences. So I've always had a passion for that side anyway. I've been a firefighter for almost 6 years now. One thing that was obvious just in general firefighter culture is that we really don't talk about our problems. We kind of bottle things up. Everything's fine. Let's just move on. And what we have seen through tons and tons of research now is that after 20 to 25 years of repeated exposures, traumatic exposures, without having that outlet to talk about it and to process those things, when we go to retire, we really start to see substance abuse increase, suicides increase, all of our other mental health issues start to really come to head when we retire. So if we can get ahead of this now, the people that are coming on board, it becomes a natural thing, right? We talk about our problems. We share those at the bar when we're talking. When I say the bar, we sit at a big table.
The kitchen bar.
Correct.
In the fire department.
Yeah, so we all kind of sit around and we talk and we chat, and if we can normalize that and make it okay to talk about
Make it safe.
Yeah, the better we are when we do retire.
That's amazing. So it's been 4 years now since this peer support team has really kind of kicked off.
Yep.
So you talked about you guys meet in the kitchen at the fire departments. How does it look like at the police department?
Most of the time, it's just you've worked with these folks and you know them, right? I see them every day, talk to them every day, and they feel comfortable enough with us to come and talk to us. And sometimes it's just a matter of you can look at somebody and be like, yeah, they're having a bad day. I just need to go talk to them. And we sit down someplace in somebody's office or out in the parking lot or wherever that occurs at. We just talk.
I heard a really good story from CRO Kilborn. Mm-hmm. He recently shared a story about Cindy Lemon, who is one of the clinicians who helps our firefighters and our police officers. And he told me he had a really long day, and it went as simple as, do you need a hug? And that meant so much to him. And just seeing, kind of how he just lit up just from speaking about that one experience, I could tell that he felt seen, he felt heard, his feelings, kind of what was going through were validated. So that's one part that I wish she was here to kind of speak on that, but I'm sure you guys have plenty to say about her. Are we comfortable sharing a little bit about the tornado? What were some of those scenes that made it hard, that made people kind of come back like, no, we need to really address this?
The night itself was a traumatic experience, responding to the west side of town. Mm-hmm. And I live on the east side of town. So coming in, no street lights, no street signs.
Were all stations dispatched at that time?
Yeah, both on duty and off duty that night were dispatched, as well as, we were bringing anybody we could in at that point. Mm-hmm. So driving in, I'd gotten off the morning before. So driving into town was somewhat traumatic by itself. And the fact that you really had no idea where you were at. It looked like a war zone. I remember going through the bypass and, running over walls and things like that. I had been knocked into the streets. And then actually getting to that Creekwood area and that whole scene was pretty intense by itself. And then having to kind of triage folks as they came along. And you had to treat it somewhat as like a mass casualty incident where, yes, you are injured, but we've got other people that are more injured that we have to deal with right now. So to have to pass on patients was a really difficult thing to say, sorry, yep, you got a broken arm, but we can't deal with you right now because we've got people trapped in their homes. We've got people going through a lot of other issues right now that we have to attend to. So that was the hardest, or one of the hardest things is passing on patients. That's not what we do.
Could imagine. How about that for police?
I was off when the storms initially hit, so I was at home. I lived out in the county. We got the tornado warning alert on our phone. That's the only reason I knew what was going on. By the time we flipped on the TV, we lost it. So I managed during the break to get my radio from the car, and I could start hearing all of these calls come in, and people on their way to work, and they're like, don't go this way. There's a tractor trailer across the interstate, or there's a factory laying on 6880. So I was like, I just left. And by the time I made it to the station, they were pretty much at that point, from what I could gather, trying to determine where was hit the hardest and help with what they could as far as looking for victims and things like that. And when I got in, I just started answering calls because we were still getting tons and tons of calls and officers needing help, but I couldn't get to them because they were on the other side of the bypass, and we just couldn't make it across.
I remember Public Works kept having to change out tires. Constant tire change out that weekend.
Yeah, it was. Luckily, we had the right people in the right places to get stuff like that done. At that point, we kind of were just responding to what we could until daylight. And at daylight is when we went over to the Village Creekwood area and started a grid search, essentially. As soon as it got daylight, waiting for more resources to come in. That was, I've never seen a war zone, but that's what I would equate it to. I mean, you pull up and there's shoes and dishwashers and lawnmowers and
I recall a tricycle in rubble at Creekwood, a picture about somewhere. You have 25 years of experience now. You're at 6. You have the psychology background. I'll say I'm 26. This was a first for me. In my job, I was less than a year in. I actually responded the next day. I lived off Creason Street at the time, so I didn't realize how impacted I was personally. But apparently it's not normal when you have to go stay at Barren River State Park for 5 days and what that does to yourself. Yeah. So I'm assuming this was a first for many officers, firefighters coming back. So when you talk about this peer support, we're in this immediate response from this tornado. Is this activated at this point? What kind of started, like, we need to really talk about this?
No, it hadn't been, I think it was a topic, but had not been really anything on concrete yet. So we were very fortunate with HR and Aaron Halsey and both of our police and fire chiefs to really come together at that point and say, it's time for us to put an action plan together. There was no doubt we all saw traumatic things that for that week. And it became very obvious that we all needed somebody to talk to help kind of guide us through this whole experience. So that was really when I think everybody's came together and said, we need to do something.
How did Cindy come on board? Was it because of the tornado that Cindy came on board?
Prior to this, we were looking at implementing this, and her and a couple other clinicians we had talked to early on. And then when the tornado happened, she has a tie to the police department. Her husband's a retired officer, and she, along with the other clinicians we'd already talked to, made themselves available, and they saw the need, right? We had tons of guys and girls coming in, and they were tired and just beat down and upset and there was only so much any one person could do, right? So they needed an out. And from that point on, we got into a partnership with Tennessee Public Safety Network. They came in and did all our initial debriefing for the tornadoes. And as that settled down and we moved further with this, we all went to Tennessee Public Safety Network and got the training to do the peer support, do the debriefing, and we've just been building on it since then.
Talk a little bit about that safety training. I've heard some funny stories. You know, some guys on your team might seem like the more stronger, more stoic reserve type, and then, you know, this ice bath I hear about. You know, is that part of that training?
The ice baths fall into the peer support, but it's more the mental health side. It's more the taking care of yourself part of it. I'm not going to do the ice bath. It's just not going to happen with me. So
Done 3 and they hurt.
yeah, no, I'm good. I don't like being cold, and I'm sure not going to do that. So
this is a response to what, emergency management and like navigating your teams and your squads after emergency response. Is that what this is more geared towards?
the debrief or the Tennessee.
Yes.
So it is basically it's a critical incident, and you bring everybody together that was involved in that, and it's because my perspective might be a little different in his perspective. So we bring everything together, and I might be able to answer questions to fill in gaps for him and him filling gaps for me. And we do this with everybody involved because he might have done something that he didn't realize he did that was super impactful and made somebody feel like they did what they were supposed to do, did their training. And it just fills in those gaps so you can have that, I won't say closure to the incident, but more complete incident. Because at the end of the day, you do everything that you're supposed to, but you don't know the results of that. You don't know what you might have missed. You don't know who you might have helped, or what I might say may help him process through this. So we try to bring it all together so everybody can start processing it as part of the healing process.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Going back to the tornadoes, and you had mentioned I've seen a picture of that tricycle and the rubble and stuff. But as for us, maybe that's a potential trigger for a firefighter or a police officer. Maybe now, whenever they see a tricycle, that brings them back to that moment as they were walking down that street. For us on the fire side, it's hearing all of the smoke detectors going off. You know, that was the constant thing. That's all we heard.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Thank you, sir.
That's one thing that I think a lot of us have had to try to reel ourselves in when we start to hear those smoke detectors going off, because initially for the weeks after the tornadoes, you hear a smoke detector and it automatically brought you back to that scene. So coming back, as to Eric was saying, and bringing everybody together for these debriefings and at least sharing some things, it's nice to know that you're not the only one thinking about some of these things. It's nice to know that some of these shared experiences that you can kind of help each other through.
She loves that. Thank you for sharing about the sound. Are there some other, I don't want to ask maybe triggers, but were there other scenarios? Like, you know, I remember seeing the red X's on the door. That was really sad for me. Mm-hmm. What might have been resolved in the debriefs? You know, something that might have been the trigger, and you guys realized that talking helped find a resolution.
Certain triggers for me were kid blankets. We lost 2 whole families essentially in the tornadoes with children. Seeing children's blankets in the yards or on the streets was one thing that kept bothering me. But again, just get it out, talking about it, and expand. You know, it's okay to have those types of thoughts and feelings. Going back to what you were saying about validation, sometimes it's just nice to hear somebody validate what you have to say. Say like, man, I get you. It sucks, and I get you. And to have that shared common experience and to know that you're not by yourself is pretty powerful.
I just find it so fascinating because, you know, we have the EAP, we have services that we are given as employees, but to see that you guys went down to almost the same level, you know, down to the room, like, you know, we're going to just do it here at the fire department. That's a great attribute to you guys is teamwork and being your employees and everyone around you. Wow, that's amazing. Because, I mean, that's just an extra step that I'm seeing past, you know, what we offer as benefits.
Yeah, it's more, the peer support team is, we all like to look at the quantitative side of things when we're looking at budgeting and On the peer support side, it's more of a qualitative thing in that it is confidential. People that come to us, it stays with us, doesn't go any farther. There's no names given out. But the quality that the peer support team brings to both agencies and now EMS corrections are all getting involved in this too. That's a hard unit to measure when you can't put a real number on it, right? I think if we are able to help one person from committing suicide, then that's worth the budget in itself. So again, we can't name names, we can't talk about all that stuff, right? So we can't go back and we talk about budgeting and, well, we need X amount of dollars for this program. That's hard to justify when we can't really give out very specific numbers. But again, we know that we've helped numerous people throughout these programs.
Absolutely.
We are thankful that we have these programs. We're thankful that our department heads and Miss Erin have all agreed that this is a need and continue to support us. Having these teams here has been very important to the growth of both departments, I think.
Yeah. So talking about the growth, can you talk a little bit, and Eric, you can maybe start this. Who makes up the peer support team and what kind of roles do you play when you engage within the police department?
I'm one of the coordinators for the police department side, and Clifton Phelps is one of the other ones. And then we have several members on it. We're actually fixing to add some more members. We stay in fairly good contact with each other, but most of them know of anything that happens. We're a large department, but you know everybody, so you know when everything happens, and we just take it amongst ourselves to check on our people when we hear about a particularly bad incident or what we believe is a bad incident, because not everything affects everyone the same way. So we just reach out to them and talk to them and let them know we're thinking about them, and if they want to sit down and talk, then we make ourselves available.
So I remember Amber K. Bowman, she shared about the sense of closure that is sometimes important to an officer. She shared a story about how, and as a community resource officer, she was able to learn about a situation. She was able to come back to that officer who might have worked on the scene with that particular person and reassure them, like, hey, this happened, and give them a sense of closure and how helpful that is. Kind of going back to that reassuring and that, want to be heard, seen.
It's developed as time has went on. Right now we have all of these officers that have gotten hired, and we've given them some initial training just on what peer support is. And these younger guys and girls are going to these incidents, and we may not hear about them, but they'll reach out to the people that they went to the academy with or the people on their shift, because they all, the longer they work together, the more close they become. So they've got to where pretty much everybody is checking on everybody. Not really putting us out of work, but
it's growing.
It's growing. Yeah, we're teaching to take care of each other, and then we're there for the bigger stuff where we might need more resources or a different point of view.
Yeah. How's it made up at the fire department?
The nice thing about ours is we have various ranks. Me as a firefighter to chiefs, right? So it's nice to get together in a building or in a road. And as a peer support team, we're all in the same boat. We're all the same rank, I guess, if you will. So we all become just equals. And to be able to share our experiences as equals makes it a lot more comfortable to open up. Like Eric was saying, things affect people differently. And we kind of go by that rule of thirds where you respond to an incident and, maybe a third of your crew finds it extremely traumatic. And then the other third doesn't really have isn't either way. And then the other third has no traumatic issues because of it. So everybody responds in different ways, and being kind of cognizant of that is important, because we all have to understand that we each process things differently, and being able to come together in a group and kind of talk about those things is good.
What can you say as far as retention goes? Would you say the peer support team is adding to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It has, as far as happier work life, like a better quality of life, knowing that, listen, we are a family, whether we want to be or not. We live together a third of our lives. We are We eat together. We sleep in the same bunk rooms. We work out together. We respond to calls together. We do all these things together. We are essentially a family unit for that 24-hour period. It has, when you can come to your crew and know that it's okay to talk about some of the things that you're going through.
Yeah.
You feel a lot more connected to them. It's a lot easier coming to work each third day. So yeah, as far as retention wise, I think a happier employee always wants to stay a little bit longer. Right?
Yeah, that's amazing. You've both shared what it looks like at each of your departments. So you guys, I want to kind of go back to that training that, I kind of teased a little bit about, but it's on that mental side. So we're talking mental wellness. Tell me a little about that.
Cindy is the clinician for that, Cindy Lemon, and she's developed a program that she presents, I know at least to the police department, and I'm pretty sure they're starting it or have started it at the fire department too, but she just comes in and goes over the different stages of different parts of life, I guess, when it becomes to a first responder. Like some of the characters she uses, like shut down Steve, what symptoms are caused by hypervigilance and how they affect you and when they affect you and things that you can do to kind of combat that. So it's more of a continuing mental health education, I guess, of what symptoms to look for, where you might fall into, and what caused that more than likely, and how you can do just things to take care of yourself to get out of those.
What are some examples of the wellness and lifestyle that you guys kind of teach to your employees?
Well, I think first we are very good at taking care of other people. That's kind of the roles that we naturally play in our jobs. And we typically fail to take care of ourselves in a weird, twisted sense. It sounds selfish for us to look after ourselves, right? Especially when we are put on the streets to take care of others. So going back to Cindy Lemon and her wellness program and kind of reiterating the importance of taking care of yourself through various tactics like breathing techniques to kind of calm your heart rate, ease your tension, things like that, or the ice baths are another example of that. Just kind of being in the moment, being present, kind of pushing everything out, kind of getting that mental clarity to kind of continue on to stay healthy. And we all know that, your mind and your body all work together. So when your mind is off, everything else kind of is off as well. We talk about physical health all the time. You have to be in great physical shape to be a police officer, a firefighter. It's labor intensive, but we have failed in the past to talk about our mental health. And it's just as important, if not more so, than our physical health when it comes to longevity.
Yeah, absolutely right. Is there anything else you guys like to add? Maybe some stories, where you've seen it be helpful, maybe a community part. Would you like to see growth within the peer support, goals?
Yeah, I think growth is ultimately what you need, and not only growth, but we need those outside of the peer support program to realize that you don't need to be on the peer support program to be in a peer support role. Mm-hmm. We tend to talk about peer support when it comes to major incidents, right? But being in our professions, it's more like a death by 1,000 cuts, right? You get a small incident here, a small incident there, but over time those things build up.
Yeah.
And the more we can incorporate those not even on the peer support program to say, hey, you know what? I can sit here and listen to you. I can realize the signs and symptoms of somebody that's going through a difficult time. I can be that person for them, even if it's just sitting there and listening to them. That's a good sign of growth. We are reaching those outside of our own circle to say, you're a part of this team too, whether you're officially in it or not, you're a part of this, and we need you to be on board with this. You. Absolutely.
We've had several that somebody in the peer support team has talked to and helped them navigate whatever that incident or part of life is. And after a certain point of time, and they've taken care of themselves and taken care of what they needed to, a lot of them have come back and said, hey, I want to be a part of this, because it took a lot for them to reach out, and they're like, it made a huge difference for me. Let me do this for somebody else.
Well, thank you both for sharing this incredible program that I'm hearing about. I think we need more law enforcement, fire departments getting this kind of engagement within their operations. I think I can see the growth and the well-being it's had. I know police officers go through like a 5-year on average burnout cycle. I'm sure we're on year 4 of this. I'm sure this is going to start addressing some of that problem and hopefully begin to shift to that better growth, that better well-being, and I would assume self-regulation, correct? Right. So thank you both. Thank you both so much. If people would like to learn more about this and how they could probably get it started, what's the best course of action?
Our peer support flyer, I believe, is on the city website, so our numbers are posted there. I know we're available generally whenever you reach out. We'll be happy to talk to you. And we've got a lot of team members that are willing and able to talk as well. So you can get on the city's website, check out our peer support flyer, and kind of reach out to me. Maybe you see somebody on that flyer that you didn't know was on the program.
Yeah.
And you feel more comfortable reaching out to them. So by all means, the big thing is reaching out, is making that initial reach out and saying, hey, I need help. Statistics are staggering when it comes to first responders, in that almost 50% of first responders have at least contemplated suicide. Mm. And 15% or so, to the best of our knowledge, have at least attempted suicide. Those numbers are horrific when it comes to somebody that's in this profession for 20 to 25 years. And we have got to get ahead of this. Otherwise, we're going to see these numbers continue to climb. And going back to retention and longevity, and people start reading about these statistics and say, man, I don't want to be a part of that. I can go to a factory and work a 9 to 5, or I can do this and not have that mental instability and see these traumatic instances. And so we have got to get ahead of this. And by reaching out to somebody in peer support, reaching out to a friend of yours that knows somebody in peer support, the big thing is just making that initial reach out and saying, hey, I need help, or I'm struggling with this. And having somebody to say, yeah, I get you, I feel you. How do we let's work on fixing this?
Yeah, I hope this might encourage another fire department municipality to kind of get boots on the ground and hear that we started it. I've heard that it started as kind of a skeleton model for this peer support program. So to see what the growth you guys have been able to start, and the resources and what you guys been able to put back into your departments. I hope this encourages someone else around us to get it going for themselves.
Absolutely. And I know that Miss Aaron would love to talk to any sort of department that's looking to head up a peer support program. Chief Delaney, Chief Brooks, they are super passionate about it, just as passionate as we are about the peer support program. So reach out to them by all means. And I know they would love to talk to another department, maybe another fire chief or a police chief wants to reach out to them. They should, because this is a program that has no limits and has no boundaries. We can all be there for one another. And that's why we do these quarterly meetings together with police and fire, is because at the end of the day, we are 100% in the same boat here. We are a family. We share common interests and common goals, and we're here for each other. And that's the big thing we want to drive home is, not only are we here for each other, but we're here for really anybody that needs some help.
Make it better, like your shirt says.
That's right.
We've actually had the opportunity several times to take peer support. We've gone to agencies in Tennessee. We've gone to several in Kentucky where we took joint teams to go in after a critical incident just to do the debriefing. And hey, we're here for you. Call us. We've got resources. We'll make it happen. And it's paid off. I've had a lot of phone calls for follow-ups, and a lot of places are looking at implementing this. So,
well, how inspiring. Thank you both for taking the time today to chit-chat with me. You guys have been listening to the Talk BGKY podcast, the official podcast for the City of Bowling Green. Have a great day.